Hey everyone, it's Monique from NowYou'reCooking.ca, and today we're making a dark, rich, and delicious Jamaican black cake, also known as rum cake, Christmas cake, fruit cake, wedding cake, and great cake, depending on which part of the Caribbean you're from. Christmas in a Jamaican household isn't quite the same without some black cake. This descendant of the British plum pudding is packed with warming spices and dried fruits that have been soaked in a mixture of sweet wine and rum that not only helps flavor the cake, but also keeps it preserved for weeks or even months. These are all the ingredients you need. It seems like a lot, but I'll go through each one to make things a little bit easier to understand. You'll need an almost equal ratio in weight of all-purpose flour, brown sugar, and butter. I used about 275 grams. Note that if you're using salted butter, don't add any extra salt to your recipe. If you're using unsalted butter, add about half a teaspoon of salt. You'll also need 6 room temperature eggs, as well as the juice and zest of 1 lime. 2 tablespoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of grated nutmeg, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and some mixed spice. I didn't have any mixed spice on hand, so I made my own. I just blitzed up a combination of cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, cloves, ginger, coriander, and mace in my coffee grinder. These are most of your wet ingredients. You can usually find the mixed essence, rose water, and vanilla extract in the baking or international aisle of many grocery stores. You'll probably find the browning near where the packaged sauces are stored, as it's also used to darken gravies. Here's my rum-soaked fruit mix that I made a year ago. I've been topping it up with more rum and wine to make sure that all the fruits were covered and preserved. I used raisins, currants, mixed citrus peel, a few prunes, and glacé cherries in this mix. All the fruits are nice and soft, perfect for blending and adding to my black cake. Remember to visit my website for the instructions on how to soak your fruits in advance. Traditionally, Jamaicans use red label wine, which is a sweet flavored wine beverage, and white overproof rum for their black cake. Both of these are by Ray and Nephew, #not sponsored, and have sweet notes that go well with all of the other ingredients. If you don't have white rum, feel free to use another Jamaican rum like this Golden Appleton blend. Can't find the red label? Then bring on the Manischewitz, which is a kosher sweet red wine. You might as well grab any other rum you like if you don't have any Jamaican ones on hand. Now, I assure you, I am not an alcoholic. I just like to have my bar fully stocked. That's it for the ingredients. Now I'll just give you some tips that will help you with the preparation. To measure flour, spoon it into your measuring cup so that it overflows, and carefully level it off with the flat edge of a knife or other utensil. I got this round, fine mesh sieve from a kitchen supply store and find it a bit more convenient than the ones with the handles. It's easier to mix your ingredients if your flour is sifted, especially if you're using other dry ingredients, because it helps with the even distribution. To measure brown sugar, make sure it's not dry and hard. Spoon it into your measuring cup and pack it down firmly to avoid any air pockets, which might interfere with the correct measurements. This is why I try to measure by weight instead of in cups when I'm baking. Eggs mix with the batter a lot easier when they're at room temperature. I took these eggs out hours ago, but my house cold. They still feel like they're straight from the fridge. So a trick you could use is just placing them in a bowl of warm water for about 10 minutes. Now on to the recipe. Prepare 2 8-inch cake pans by greasing them with butter. Mine's a little melty, but that's alright. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. I know a lot of people bake their cakes at a lower temperature, but it depends on the size of your pan, how much batter you put in, as well as your oven. You don't want these cakes sticking to the pan, so after you've buttered them well, you have to line them with parchment paper. Now here's a trick I've learned that will make lining your pan so much easier. Tear off enough parchment paper to cover the diameter of the pan. Fold it in half, then fold it in half again, like you're making one of those greeting cards in art class from back in grade school. From the center point, fold your paper into a cone shape a couple times. Measure from the center of your baking pan, then cut across the bottom. Remember, I'm using an 8-inch pan, so I'm cutting at the radius, which is 4 inches in length. What? I feel like a math teacher. Open it up and you have the perfect circle to line the bottom of your pan. So butter your pan first, then add the parchment paper. Some people line the sides too, but if you butter them well, the cake shouldn't stick. Remember the fruits you had to pre-soak in liquor before starting this recipe? Well, grab them from whatever dark corner they were being stored in. As I mentioned earlier, I had these fruits soaking since last Christmas. You could soak yours for about a week in advance at minimum to get the right flavor. You could speed up the maceration process by simmering them on the stovetop for under an hour. Check out the recipe on my blog for how to prep both methods. Measure out about 2 cups or 650 grams of fruit mixture. Add it to a blender. You'll want to add a bit more wine and rum to help with the blending process. I used a 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of each. Pulse for a bit to get things started, then continue to blend until you achieve your desired consistency. Now I don't like my black cake so lumpy that I'm tasting chunks of fruit in it, so my batch is getting blended quite a bit. The consistency is up to you. Set your blended fruits aside and start with the dry ingredients. Whisk together your spices and the baking powder with your flour. Make sure that everything is incorporated nicely. Set the dry ingredients aside. Crack your 6 eggs into another bowl or measuring jar. I like whisking my eggs and combining it with the lime juice beforehand. The lime juice in this recipe helps get rid of the egginess of the batter since we use so many of them. Set your eggs aside. If you don't have a stand mixer, you could use an electric hand mixer. You could also do this by hand, but I'm warning you, creaming butter and sugar together is going to be a workout. It's very important that your butter is at room temperature. It needs to be soft enough to cream. You could speed this process along by cutting it into cubes like I did when you first take it out of the fridge. I usually start on a low speed, then gradually increase it. Add in your brown sugar a bit at a time until everything becomes incorporated. You want to keep mixing your batter for at least 5 minutes. Make sure you scrape the sides down with a spatula occasionally. Your mixture should be light and fluffy when it's time to move on to the next step. This is the consistency you should have. Now this step is important. Slowly add the eggs to the butter mixture. If you add in all your eggs at one time, your batter will split. You want everything to mix in evenly. Just like with oil and water, eggs, which has a high percentage of water, and butter, which has a high percentage of fat, don't mix very well unless done properly. You want to give the batter time to thicken and emulsify. Well, I tried. Add in your rose water, vanilla, mixed essence, and your lemon zest. Then mix in your boozy pureed fruits. Now if you do see your batter start to look curdled, don't worry too much. Just continue with the recipe. This is where I start to mix the batter by hand. Now be careful not to overmix your ingredients once the flour is added, or your cake will come out tough like rock stone. Gradually add the flour mixture to the wet ingredients in about 3 additions and fold in using a spatula or wooden spoon. Stir in the browning a tablespoon at a time to achieve the desired color. Now you want a dark brown color. This is called black cake, not light brown cake. A trick I learned from my mom to test if the consistency is right is the spoon test. Stick your spoon in the middle of the batter. If it falls to a 45-degree angle, then slows down, you're good to go. If it sticks in the middle and doesn't move, you could add some more wine. If it falls too easily, some people like to add plain breadcrumbs or more flour to the mixture to thicken it up. Now that the batter is finally done, divide it evenly between the two prepared pans. Give it a slight tap on the counter to get rid of any air bubbles. I found it effective to add a roasting pan filled with water to the bottom rack of the oven while the cakes are baking. This water bath helps steam the cake a bit and keeps them moist. If you don't have room, you could omit this step, but reduce the temperature a bit to make sure that they cook properly. After about an hour and 15 minutes, your cake should be finished baking. You know the cakes are done when a toothpick or knife inserted into the center comes out clean. Once cool enough to handle, remove the cakes from the pans and brush them with a wine and rum mixture. Whoops! Remember to remove the parchment paper. The cake is best served a couple days after baking. The texture will change depending on how much alcohol you add to it after it comes out of the oven. Here I'm brushing it with about 60 milliliters each of rum and wine for both cakes. They'll absorb this pretty quickly. As long as it's brushed with this mixture as needed, it'll last you weeks or even months at room temperature. To store, wrap in plastic wrap, then in foil if desired. You could also store it in one of those holiday baking tins and give it away as a nice gift. If you have no patience, you could eat a slice right away like I did. There are many variations of this black cake across the Caribbean. After watching my mom bake hers for years, with no measurements mind you, I was able to bake my own. This is some good cake. As I devour this scrumptious Jamaican dessert, from my kitchen to yours, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and blessings for a prosperous New Year. Thanks for watching this video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to know when I post a new recipe video. Don't forget to follow me on social media. And as always, the full recipe with all the measurements are on my website at nowyourcooking.ca. Enjoy!